In this series of videos, we're going to discuss Boolean expressions and conditionals. A Boolean expression is an expression that evaluates to true or false. Remember that all of our Java expressions evaluate to having a type and having a value. Some expressions evaluate to a numeric type, others evaluate to a string. Boolean expressions evaluate to either true or false, so the value is going to be either true or false. Oftentimes, Boolean expressions use what's called a relational operator to compare two values. So you can compare whether two values are equal. Note that comparing whether two values are equal uses the double equal sign, so be careful not to use a single equal sign. That will lead you to problems. Not equal to is exclamation point equal sign. And then we've got less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. So these are the relational operators provided by Java that allow you to compare two values. And the result of that comparison will yield either a true or false. So using these relational operators in an expression will leave you with a Boolean expression, again, that evaluates to true or false. Here are some examples. Now, arithmetic operators have higher precedence. So if you have an arithmetic operator and a relational operator in a single expression, the arithmetic operator will be evaluated first. So for example, this expression here is a Boolean expression. It evaluates to false because we evaluate the arithmetic part first because the minus sign has higher precedence. So this evaluates to 5. And then we're left with the expression 7 minus 5, which is false. Here, 4 plus 2 evaluates to 6. And then we're left with the Boolean expression 6 is equal to 6, which is true. So our relational operators have a lower precedence, meaning, again, we evaluate the arithmetic side of things first, or the arithmetic part of things first, and then evaluate the relational operator. We can also combine multiple Boolean expressions using what's called the logical operators, and Java provides us with 3 of those. One of them is a negation operator or a logical not. That is just the exclamation point. And is 2 ampersands, and or is 2 vertical bars. Using any one of these logical operators allows you to take 2 Boolean expressions, and return a new Boolean result. So looking first at the logical not actually is a unary operator, which means it takes just one operand, and essentially it just negates the current value of a Boolean. So if you have some Boolean whose value is true, not B evaluates to false. If you have some Boolean whose value is false, not B evaluates to true. This is called a truth table, and it gives you all the different values possible with a particular Boolean expression. So in this case, it's a pretty simple one. If we have a Boolean expression A, and then we want to evaluate not A, so if A is true, not A is false. If A is false, not A is true. Logical and or are both binary operators, and basically works by requiring the 2 operands, A and B, to both be true in order for A and B to be true, or works whether A or B is true. So here we have 2 Boolean operands, A and B, and these are the possible combinations of values that they might take. If both A and B are true, then A and B is also going to be true, and A or B is also going to be true. If A is true and B is false, then A and B is false, but A or B is still true. Because A and B requires both components to be true, but A or B only requires one to be true. If A is false and B is true, A and B is still going to be false. A or B is still going to be true. And if both A and B are false, then A and B is false, and A or B is also false. So again, the or requires just one side or both to be true in order for the or to be true. The and requires both sides to be true. The Java logical operators are what's called short-circuited. What this means is if they at some point evaluate from left to right, and if at some point they already know the result, then they stop evaluating and don't continue on. So for example, if you had an and expression where the left-hand side was false, as soon as Java evaluates this left-hand side to be false, it stops because it knows that it doesn't really matter what B evaluates to. If we have a false and something else, the whole thing is going to be false, right? Because and requires both sides to be true in order to be true. So as soon as we know that the left operand is false, we can just stop. Similarly with or, if we were to know that the left operand was true, then we never evaluate the right operand, because if one side is true, the whole thing is true. So sometimes you can use this quality of the logical operators. You can take advantage of it and use it to kind of simplify your code. One example of this, which we won't deal with anything quite this complicated for a while, but one example is oftentimes people will check to see if an object is null, meaning that it hasn't been initialized yet or it doesn't have a value yet. And they'll say, well, if the object isn't null, and then have an ampersand, and then go on to evaluate, or rather invoke a method on that object on the right-hand side. And we can use the short-circuited operators, because if the left-hand side is false, meaning the object is null, then the right-hand side will never be evaluated, meaning we won't throw an exception trying to invoke something on a null object. Now that last little bit I said might not make sense to many of you. That's okay. That's a little bit further than what we've been talking about lately. But just know that this is actually a handy little thing to know about with how these operators are evaluated that you can actually take advantage of down the road. So let's look back a little bit again at precedence. Remember that our highest precedence order is parentheses. Things in parentheses are always executed first. Then we have multiplication and division and remainder all have the same level of precedence, and they are evaluated from left to right. Addition, subtraction, and string concatenation have the next lowest and all equal order of precedence, again evaluated left to right. Below that are our equality and relational operators. So these are things like plus equals, and then our relation operators like less than or equal to, etc. So those would be evaluated next. Below that comes logical not, that's our exclamation point. Below that comes logical and logical or, which have the same precedence as each other and are, evaluated from left to right. And then way down on the bottom again is assignment. Okay, so assignment comes all the way last. Remember, we always evaluate the right-hand side first and do our assignment last. And I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier when I said equality operators. Equality operators are things like equal to and not equal to, not plus equals, which is an assignment operator. So I apologize, I misspoke about that. The assignment operators are equals, things like plus equals, minus equals, times equals, divide by equals, etc. All of those come last. Again, we evaluate everything else first, and we evaluate our assignment operator last.